Hello, everybody. I'm Skip Elsheimer, and welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we watch old 16mm films and think about them and reflect on what we're currently going through. And that was a lot of home movie footage, and there's a lot more from that reel, from the Simon family, and a lot of ice skating footage, including some overcranking, where you go faster than normal, and then when you play it back, it slows it down. So that's what was going on there with some of the stuff. Anywho, thank you, Rick K. My father is doing well and is going to come home from the hospital. He had some nasty bacteria in his bloodstream that was connected to the leads of his pacemaker, which is why I showed those films about pacemakers and about the heart. And so they had to remove all that, which is an ordeal. But he's doing better and is supposed to go home today, maybe tomorrow. We'll see. Anyhow, behind me, so thank you for that. Behind me is a film scanner, and we got a film set up, and I'm going to try to run couple of films today. We're gonna push for it and see. This is warning, it could happen to you. And what is it? I don't know. I'm hoping that it's not creepy. Here we go. Enjoy.
We all know there are risks in life. Every time we step out of the house, every time we ride in a car, there is a possibility of a serious accident. The same thing is true of our participation in sports. We all know there are risks, but we give it very little thought. The purpose of this film is not to frighten or upset you. The purpose is to inform you of the risks and to urge you to think about those risks in connection with your participation in sports.
Each year, over 3 million boys and nearly 2 million girls participate in high school interscholastic sports. Nearly 7 million additional high school students take part in their school's physical education programs. Sports participation has a number of advantages. You receive adequate physical conditioning on a regular basis. You can increase your agility, flexibility, coordination, speed, and endurance. You'll carry many of these advantages with you beyond your school years. Sports teach discipline, the value of working with others to achieve a common goal, and good sportsmanship. Sports activities also challenge one's own psychological and physical limits. But there can be disadvantages. There's always the chance you could be injured. Generally, you're safer participating in supervised athletics than when you're riding in an automobile. But if you play sports, the odds are in favor of you suffering some type of physical injury. Anytime you're moving, you take the risk of injuring your body. A small amount of force will cause a bruise. A greater amount of force can stretch the skin to the point of breaking. It can tear, causing a cut or laceration. Bruises and cuts heal in a week to a month, and you usually suffer no future disability. A moderate amount of force will knock the wind out of you. You suffer a momentary short circuit of the nerves that control your diaphragm. Recovery time, 30 seconds to a minute. You suffer no disability, and you're usually back in action in a short while. Heavy contact can break your bones. Depending on which bones you break, you may be out for the rest of the season. Later in life, you may face painful arthritis. Whenever your joints are overstretched, you can suffer a muscle strain or a mild sprain. Recovery time, 2 to 6 weeks. Disability, none. If a joint is forced even harder in the wrong direction, the ligaments holding the bones together are torn. Recovery time, 3 months to 1 year. Disability, increased risk of re-injuring that joint, and later you could suffer arthritis in that area. A moderate blow to the head can cause a concussion, a jarring of the brain. Recovery time, a few days. Disability, usually none. A heavy blow to the head might bruise or severely damage the brain or spinal cord and could result in loss of brain function, paralysis, or even death. Recovery time, never. Disability, permanent. Whenever you're moving, you're gambling with your body. You're gambling with your future.
Sports in general are relatively safe when compared with other life activities. For example, each year, car accidents kill 72 out of every 100,000 males aged 15 to 24. Drowning, 9, and football, less than 1. In each sport, there are specific rules and recommendations that are designed to protect you in a way that can reduce your risk of severe injury. A few examples include the use of crash mats and spotters in gymnastics. In football, avoid using the head as the initial point of contact. Check the depth of the water before diving. And in weight training, use proper techniques and experienced spotters to prevent injury.
There are more than 17 million sports-related injuries in the United States each year. Most of these are minor sprains and strains and contusions and are not associated with any prolonged disability. There are other injuries that are more serious, where there's tearing of the ligament. There may be instability leading to disability, and later in life there may be some arthritis. And then we have catastrophic injuries, those that do relate to a life-threatening or life-changing injury. And these are usually the head, the neck, or spinal cord-related injuries and are associated with permanent disability. Fortunately, these are very uncommon. Now, there are a number of ways that we can prevent injury. These include proper conditioning, rest, and diet. Coaching technique is also important, as well as the wearing of properly fitted protective equipment. Regardless of what sport you play, there's always the risk of injury. Even though you prepare yourself and take steps to minimize the risk, all sports activities involve somewhat of a gamble. The chances for some type of injury are almost certain. There's no guarantee of risk-free participation. I've seen cases where the athlete apparently did everything right and still was catastrophically injured in a totally unpredictable and unavoidable accident.
I was practicing in the gym and I was doing a very difficult mount. And I wondered what would happen if my hands missed. And the last time that I was practicing it, I had a premonition. And I did the trick and I missed. When I hit the floor, I had very extreme pain in my neck. And right away, I knew that I was paralyzed.
What happened was I was wrestling with another wrestler on the team, and he came up behind me and put his arms around me from behind and pinned my arms at my side. And he lifted me up off the ground and turned me real quick in midair and brought me down, face down, right into the mat, and it smashed the 4th and 5th cervical vertebrae in my neck and paralyzed me from the high chest on down.
Quadriplegia is a devastating condition which results from injury to the spinal cord within the 7 cervical vertebrae, which extend from the bottom of the skull to about as far back as you can reach. There is not only loss of movement and strength, but feeling and sensation is also seriously impaired. The person is numb from about the mid-chest level down. One of the real tragedies of spinal cord injury is the fact that spinal cord tissue, once it's destroyed, does not regenerate itself. Unlike other injuries, these injuries do not heal and are permanent.
I was 15 years old when I was hurt playing football. I was playing fullback. I was carrying the ball. At the point of contact, I lowered my head, and the tackler and I made helmet-to-helmet contact. And at that point, I was injured, resulting in quadriplegia, and I'm still quadriplegic. The way I approach life is that life is a battle. Life, everything takes longer. Things that used to, take a half a second now take 10, 15 minutes out of your day. Basically, after you're paralyzed, it's like you have two lives in a lot of ways. You have the before the accident and after the accident. And in a lot of ways, it's like starting a whole new life. It's like being a baby again. And the way you relate to the environment is completely different. You got curbs, stairs that you never thought about before that you have to now deal with. Opening doors. It takes me 2 or 3 minutes to open a stupid door. The way that you relate to yourself, the way you relate to your body is completely different. I mean, at this time, I can't move half of my body. It's not working. I have to drag myself around on a cart.
Athletics, every athlete deals with some sort of pain or some sort of injury, but I never thought, this could happen. And the thing is, it could happen to you. It could happen to you anytime out there on any playing field in any sport.
As a student athlete, many of the decisions you make can influence your future. Sports participation can be a big part of your school life. For many of you, your excellence in sports may have a positive effect on your ambitions, careers, and health beyond school. But you should realize there are disadvantages. You will probably receive some type of injury. Most of these injuries will be minor, and the odds are in favor of you having no long-term disability. But if you're one of the unfortunate few whose injuries are permanent and can't be reversed ever, sports could mark you for the rest of your life.
The thing to realize is that at this age, you're not invincible. You may think you are. I sure did. I thought I was King Kong. I mean, I thought there's nothing that's going to hurt me. Get proper equipment, follow the rules. Realize those rules aren't out there just for no reason. They're out there to keep you safe. Students have a right to have coaches properly instruct them as to how to avoid breaking their neck, and the coaches have a duty to implement the safest techniques. Listen to your coach. I mean, really listen to what he's saying, and he's trying to teach you something, and he's trying to make the game as safe as possible for you.
Know your limits. Make sure that you don't get so hyped up that you've got to do this trick one more time, and you don't want any spotters because you can fall and you can hurt yourself bad.
The chance of your suffering catastrophic injury in sports is very remote. As you can see, there's a far greater risk of serious injury when you climb into a car to ride home from practice or an event, or when you go for a swim in a backyard pool. You owe it to yourself to do all you can to protect yourself from injury in athletics. The more information you have, the better prepared you are. You are now in a position to make a knowing decision to participate.
All right. That sounds like that film was shown as a legal, a way to try to push away some of the liability associated with students doing athletics. Saying like, all right, well, here's the risk. We told you what the risks were. We showed you this film. And you filled out this paperwork and you got insurance. So it's not us. It's not on us. That's what that felt like. It's a very convenient way to talk about it. And probably you would also show with the parents, too. That would be the plan, is you get everybody to buy in and say, like, it's worth the risks. All right, what do we got next? He's problematic. And this cartoon is... but this cartoon is so much part of the Gen X experience that I can't dismiss it. And the animation isn't very good, but there's just something about it that just kind of warms something in my heart, even though the creator was a horrible person to women. Enjoy.
Hey, this is gonna be a good day. Yeah, we get some extra money. All we gotta do is clean and level this whole lot for Mrs. Franklin.
What are we supposed to do it with? Our hands? No, Monroe's gonna bring us the tools from the janitor's closet in his building.
Yeah, he's supposed to be here an hour ago.
We ought to go to his place and see what's holding him up.
Well, that Mrs. Schlagmeyer certainly was a good sport now, wasn't she? Well, that's it for today, folks. So this is Monty Marshall telling you to tune in tomorrow, and once again, our guest celebrities make fools of themselves.
Oh, boy. Now it's time for my favorite rerun.
My Little Fanny, starring Fanny and Freddie Feshback.
Hey, Monroe!
Why, Fanny Feshback, what are you doing hanging off that chandelier?
Monroe! Where are you? Oh. Hi, dudes. What do you want? What we want those tools you promised us. What tools? The ones in the janitor's closet.
Don't you remember? We're supposed to level and clean Mrs. Franklin's lot.
Oh, yeah. I forgot.
We gotta get them now. We don't have much time.
Okay.
Hey, there's a note on the door.
Monroe, rang your door buzzer but got no answer. Couldn't wait any longer. Had to lock up before I left. Signed, Janitor. Darn you, Monroe. You missed a great chance to make some money. Well, could I help it if there was this keen game show on TV?
Game show?
Yeah. All these famous celebrities like Tony Meadows and Charles Nelson Newleman started throwing these custard pies. Then they went for the big prize, an all-expense-paid hang glider tour of Yellowstone Park.
Well, Monroe's still in that little TV world of his own. Let the kids down, and the sad thing is he doesn't even know it. And there's a lot of stuff on TV that's good to watch, but anything that's overdone, like a good steak, can leave a bad taste. And Monroe has yet to learn this.
Monroe, I'm leaving now. Time for you to go to bed.
In a minute, Mom.
Not in a minute, now.
And now, Adventure Theater presents Little Brutus.
Monroe.
Huh?
Monroe, wake up. This is the third time this week I've come home and found you asleep in front of that TV set.
There was this dude who was being chased by this other dude in this big black touring car. And this dude was trying to catch him and tell him the bridge was washed out.
Never mind that now. You get to sleep, young man.
Oh! Hi! Man, this old movie is really something else. I can see how Monroe could get all wrapped up in it. But see, there's a time and a place for everything, and the middle of the night is definitely not the right time for kids to be watching movies or anything else. Now, Monroe is about to learn why.
Time to get up, Monroe. You're not going to be late to school again, young man.
I don't want to go to school. I don't feel good. Oh, I'm tired.
Hey, look what's gonna play. Our hero, Perdell Peters.
Perdell Peters?
Wow,
cool. He's the greatest.
Yeah, he's great.
Ooh, it gets down, man. Wow.
It says he's gonna be at the Civic Auditorium next week. Hey, but no, baby, can you keep me a baby? Uh-oh, look, cost $7.50 to get in.
$7.50.
I guess we just better skip it.
Oh, man.
Too rich for my blood.
$7.50, wow.
Every breath.
Too much.
Well, it looks like, as I was saying, I mean, it looks like Fat Albert and the kids aren't going to see the old Purdell Peters do his stuff. But maybe there's a way that they can still go to the concert.
Class, I have a special announcement to make. There's going to be an intra-school competition with a nice prize for the winning class. Monroe?
Huh? What?
As I was saying, each class is going to put on a one-act play. And the class that puts on the best performance will be taken to the Purdell Peters concert.
Yay! Wow! Purdell Peters concert! Purdell Peters! Wow! Hey, Miss Breyfogle. Oh, I know just the play we should do. Robin Hood. It'll be sensational. Even better than the movie. Hey, I'll write the whole thing.
Well, looks like Monroe has picked up something good from television and without being yelled at either. Let's see how he does as a showman.
Okay, dudes, let's take it from the top. Now you all know your lines.
Yeah, sure.
Right on. Great! Now give me everything you got. Because if we win first prize, who do we get to go see? Purdell Peters. Right on. Action.
How now, cunning sheriff of Nottingham?
What say, your rotten kingship? What's coming down? Hold it! Hold it! Hey! Ma'am, the line is, what say ye, noble lordship? Do it like it's written, will you? Aw, man, I don't dig this old English lip flapping, but that's the way the medieval dudes talked. That's medieval. Besides, how do you know? 'Cause I seen the movie on TV 37 times. That's how. Now do it right.
Yeah, come on, man. You want to win the prize, don't you?
Okay, okay.
And what news have ye of Robin Hood?
Even as we speaketh, I've set a trap for the knave. Bring in the prisoner.
Here he is, Sheriff. Robin's Mentor Fried Top.
Unhand me, you Carlite.
That's Varlet.
I don't care what kind of light it is. Why do I have to wear this dress?
It's not a dress. It's a habit.
Well, it's one habit I don't want.
You want to go to the Purdell Peters concert, don't you?
All right. You will not get us away with this. Robin Hood will saveth me.
That is my plan. For if Robin Hood tries to saveth you, You'll what, Sheriff? Ah! Robin Hood! How now, Sheriff? You have falleth into my trap. Guard! Seizeth him! Bing! He shooteth the sword right out of my hand. Don't cometh any closer, Robin Hood, if you value this dumb kid's life.
Hey, unhand that friar.
Ah! Little John and the merry men! Give him your sword, Little John. I would have finished him myself. Have at you, rogue! Ah! 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 Ah!
Hey, this is gonna be a great play. Look at all the people coming to see us.
Almost curtain time. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
No, Monroe. He's not here.
Hey, that's right.
Oh, my goodness. The whole play hinges on him.
Oh, no.
No.
What now?
Yeah.
Cool it, dudes. I'll just give him a quick phone call.
Man, even old Earl Flynn never looked this cool as Robin Hood. Have it you, Sir Dude. Ah, take that. Ah!
Hey, nobody home.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, Fat Albert's right. Even when Monroe's there, there's nobody home. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with using your imagination, but you mustn't let your imagination use you. You'll see what I mean in a minute.
Coming up next, last season's award-winning special, Purdell Peters at Poughkeepsie.
Purdell Peters! Wow!
Fat Albert, what are we gonna do? Well, there's one thing to do, dudes. I gotta go get Monroe.
You'll never make it in time. Take my bike.
Okay.
Yeah, yay, what I say, yay, yay.
Hey, they're starting to get fidgety out there.
Where's Fat Albert and Monroe, huh?
Hey, Monroe. Come on, man.
We can't wait any longer for Fat Albert and Monroe. The other classes will have to start their performances.
Don't worry, Monroe. We're gonna make it.
Hey, what's that ahead?
Hey. It's time for the play.
What's the matter?
Monroe, the evening's entertainment is over. Miss Johnson's class won.
Oh. Well, Monroe sure let the gang down this time. Now none of Fat Albert's bunch gets to go to the concert.
Good morning, class. As the great scholar Jansen once said, disappointments only serve to sweeten the ultimate victory. Oh. I know you're very unhappy about what happened last night, but I have a surprise for you. All of you who were ready to do your parts last night will be taken to the Purdell Peters concert.
Yay! Yay! Hooray! Hooray!
Sorry you can't go to the concert with us, Monroe, but it really wouldn't have been fair for Miss Bradford to give you a ticket, too.
Aw, that's kid stuff. Who cares about that old Purdell Peters anyway? I got more important stuff to do. Yay! Hooray! Great! Lucky dudes. Sure wish I could be there.
Monroe, that was our TV alarm. You know what that means.
Oh, Mom.
No arguing. You've had your television for today.
Oh, all right. Kinda cool.
All right. Now, that was to remind you about watching TV. See, television can open up new vistas for us all. Now, there are a lot of really worthwhile.
Wow. Alright. I just saw YouTube, somebody, Filmation maybe, was like, alright, we've had it. Unfortunately, there's a great song. I think is the best part of Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids show, is the songs are actually really good. The animation is horrible. The acting is horrible. The voices are pretty good. But the stories are not great. But this show has something to it. It's almost like if you could edit Bill Cosby out, it would be better. Maybe. I don't know. But the music is, like I said, is really good. But anyhow, YouTube decided that was not cool. So we have another film set up behind us. And this is a management film by Roundtable Films, which could go either way. It could be awesome, or it could be horrible. It depends. We'll see if there's live action kind of sketches or skits or narratives. That's fun. If it's just some guy going blah 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 blah, that's not fun. So here we go. This is How Good Is a Good Guy. Enjoy.
This man is a supervisor. He's been a part of management for almost 20 years. This man is also a supervisor. He got his promotion just about 2 months ago. And this man has been head of his department for about 4 years. They each work for different companies in completely different industries, but they all have one thing in common. When a man becomes a supervisor, he finds himself in charge of a group of people and is responsible for their efforts. He is told by management, by those over him, that he must maintain a productive flow of work. But no matter how much technical knowledge he might have, there's one factor which can seriously limit his chances of success. One element that can distort everything he does, weaken him as a supervisor, impair the efficiency of his department, lower the morale of his workers, and cause him more trouble than any other single problem. And he may not even be aware of the cause of his trouble. Now, let's see if we can discover what this factor is and what we can do about it. We start with our new supervisor, Steve Wilkins, as he begins an appraisal interview with one of his men.
You know about this appraisal stuff.
Sure, every 6 months.
If I put it off any longer, I'll have 2 to make out. Of course, I know the kind of work you do, but this is for personnel.
Yeah, I know. I've been through them before. You want me to look at it?
Yes. But understand, it isn't my idea. After all, how can you rate a guy you've worked with for so long?
That's okay, Steve. Don't worry.
I went through last year's form, the one Mr. Perry made out, and wrote out what looked, well, reasonable. But nobody's going to look at it anyway.
Hardly the way appraisal interviews should go. Here's a chance to go over past performance. Let the worker know where he stands, how he can improve his work. Now, Steve's company also hopes these interviews will help supervisors understand their people better, become more sensitive to existing problems. Appraisal interviews, properly conducted, can accomplish all this. Now, Steve should know. He's been briefed thoroughly on the matter, but there's more than what we see on the surface. Let's dig deeper into the minds of both men, Steve the supervisor and Art the worker.
Then everything's all right?
No, everything's not all right. But how can I tell him he's causing friction in his section? Always some problem, isn't there? Well, let's knock off this paperwork.
If something's wrong, I'd be better off knowing what it is.
Sure. You want me to do anything? Just look it over and sign it. Maybe I should open up and be honest with Art. He knows his work. Could be in line for a promotion, too. If he could only get along with the rest of the men. But if I tell him about the complaints, he won't like it. Or me. I'd better not say anything. These things usually work themselves out.
Something is wrong. He's rating everything okay, but he's not telling me what he really thinks. I wonder why. What's he holding back? I hate a brush-off like this. Good or bad, I'd like to know what goes on, where I stand.
Everything look all right?
I suppose so.
Art, I gotta get back to work. Guess that does it. Thanks a lot.
Sure. See you.
Revealing, isn't it? What people really think. But what about the supervisor who compromises his actions out of fear of what his men might think of him? It's actually a common weakness, one that causes many different problems. Now, here are 2 men who work for another company.
How are things going? Okay. I've been wanting to talk with you, Dave.
I guess this is as good a time as any. I don't quite know how to say this, but, well, our department's on the spot.
No? Why, what's wrong?
Well, the front office is putting on the pressure.
They are? Why?
Well, we're making more mistakes than ever. We're way behind on our schedule.
I suppose I have been slacking off. Well, here's where I get it.
Well, now look, Hal, you know I'm holding up more than my end of the job.
Sometimes you do, and other times you don't. But what can I do? Whenever I had to really level with someone, I felt they resented it.
Dave, I'm not trying to fix any blame. I just want to locate the trouble spots, that's all. Well, we've had a lot of rush jobs lately, and we're overloaded.
I've heard that one before.
Well, I know you turn out all you can under the circumstances, but, well, when the front office sees our figures, they put on a lot of pressure.
Well, I wish I could suggest something, Hal, but nobody downstairs wants to do more than he has to.
I know, but I don't want to antagonize an entire department.
I know.
Well, anything you can suggest, let me know.
Oh, yeah? There's not a suggestion I could make that you wouldn't resent.
Well, we'll all have to try harder, that's all.
Sure, I could try harder if I had to. But when you can sell the boss a worn-out alibi, why try? Still, it would be nice to get some clear direction around here.
Well, you know you can count on me.
I guess we better get back.
Right.
Again, need for approval took precedence over job requirements. Result? Hal failed to cope with the problems of his department. And Dave ended up feeling his boss was an easy mark, a man he couldn't respect too highly. Now, here's a supervisor who, fortunately, is not faced with any immediate problem, who in general is satisfied with his men's work.
Jim, I have an idea to simplify things considerably. It should cut our costs as well. Oh, look at this flow chart. Since it affects your section, I wanted to talk it over with you before going ahead.
What do you know? He's really worked this out. Looks like a good idea, too.
What do you think?
Never can tell how much work these changes might mean. Better play it cagey.
I don't know. A change like this could disrupt an awful lot of relationships.
If he doesn't support this change, it'll never work.
Well, I suppose it'll move people around some. Still, they have to get used to changes, don't they? Especially for the better?
Maybe. But I think you're better off leaving things as they are. The work's getting done. Everybody's getting along.
Oh, you know I want everybody satisfied. But don't you think this would mean greater efficiency?
Never did see everybody satisfied. And this change will probably mean more work at first. So why ask for it?
Phil, I know how the men think. They won't like it.
And maybe they won't like me for suggesting it. Maybe he's right. It will take some more effort at first.
I thought it was a good idea. But if you're sure the men won't buy it, then I'll go along with you.
If you think it's so hot, why drop it so quickly?
Well, I guess it's worth thinking about. But for the moment, leave well enough alone.
Well, I suppose that settles it.
Wonder why he let me talk him out of it so easily.
Sorry, that's the way I see it.
Oh, that's okay. Don't worry.
I'm not going to worry. You're the boss.
And another supervisor fails to do his job. Why? How could these failures have been avoided? Now, let's analyze what we've seen. First, a man who couldn't tell his subordinate where he stood because he himself was insecure. Another who so needed approval that he was afraid a perfectly reasonable correction would be taken as personal criticism and bring resentment. And finally, a man so preoccupied with his men's feelings toward him that it influenced his decision to make a needed change. We saw how all these men tried to do a job and be liked, yet ended up by achieving neither. Their fear of not getting approval was so great that they acted frightened, insecure, and even immature. This fear made it impossible for them to think about their situations realistically, made them unwilling or unable to say what they really thought and felt, a fact which was easily apparent and which made it practically impossible for their men to respect them. Who can like an evasive boss? How can a worker have much regard for a supervisor who is so wrapped up in himself that he doesn't try to understand his employees' problems? Supervisors like these fear that legitimate requests will be considered too demanding. They evaluate everything in terms of their men's probable reactions. Now, how can such people be very valuable either to their men or to their companies? But what if the conversations we saw had never taken place? What might have happened if these supervisors had been different? Free of fear of loss of approval, willing to look at their men as people with needs similar to their own. Does it make any difference if we stop worrying about how popular we are with the people we supervise? Let's find out if we can be firm and forthright without damaging good relationships with our personnel. Now, would this have had any effect on Steve and the worker who couldn't get along with his group?
What's up, Steve? Time for another periodic appraisal, Art. But let's talk for a few minutes first.
This is a good chance for me to find out where I stand with Steve.
You mean another 6 months have passed?
6 months. It seems more like 2 weeks since Art and I worked together. And now I'm his boss, making out his appraisal form. I don't relish the job, but it's got to be done and done right.
That's right. 6 months ago, Mr. Perry made one of these out for me. You know, Art, before you're made responsible for the work of other people, you don't have to think of them according to these standards. And even if you thought they could improve, you wouldn't mention it.
I wonder what he's leading up to.
Looks different from the other side of the desk, huh?
I'm glad he realizes that.
Well, you have to size up a problem more objectively. Not let friendship influence your judgment.
You're leading up to something, Steve. What is it?
He'll probably resent my even listening to the men's complaints. But I can't ignore them. An experienced man like Art shouldn't make it so rough on the new men.
Well, you know the purpose of these interviews is to give us a chance to sit down and go over the records of the past 6 months, find out where we stand today, and learn what we can do to improve ourselves.
Yes, I know.
The records here indicate that your output is the best in the department. I don't know of a job that you've tackled that you haven't gotten out ahead of schedule.
Yeah, but look at the low rating it gave me on working relations.
But?
Yes, there is a but. I've been able to give you a good rating on everything except your ability to get along, to work with other people. Lately, I've been getting some complaints.
Complaints? I wasn't aware of any trouble.
Oh, what kind of complaints?
I heard there was some dissension recently. And I feel it's only right to tell you so that together you and I can find out what's causing it.
This must be more serious than I thought.
Well, I don't know who you've been listening to, and I don't care, but I think things would be a lot better if people would just mind their own business.
Mind their own business?
I mean all these jokers that don't know what they're doing half the time, then complain because I'm getting out more than they are.
You mean the new men?
Yes.
You mean you don't think they're trying to do a good job?
Well, I don't know. I suppose so. I don't bother with them very much.
Uh-huh.
Oh, sure, some of them come around asking me questions about things.
And you couldn't help them?
Well, I guess I could, but it means dropping what I'm doing and then picking up again.
Well, if the older men can't help them, how else are they going to learn?
Sure, but well, it's sort of annoying being interrupted with questions.
Yes, that's always a problem.
So, how do you know what you're supposed to do?
Art, there's more to a job than production. Sure, that's most important. But helping out these new men is important, too. Especially from your viewpoint. More than anything, I'd say it's what's holding you back.
I see what you mean. Comes under the heading of cooperation, huh?
Cooperation is right. And it looks like that department's going to get more of it now. I think we've seen enough to learn that a supervisor who feels free to express himself creates an atmosphere in which problems can be solved. It's interesting, too, that Art seems to have more confidence in his boss. Like everyone, he feels more secure with the channels of communication open. Now, let's look at Hal and Dave again. Hal, you remember, was faced with the problem of what to do about Dave, whose work had become unsatisfactory.
Well, how are things, Dave? Okay. No problems?
No, everything's fine. Dave sometimes turns out very good work, but he's not very consistent. It may not be pleasant, but we've got to talk it over, get to the bottom of the trouble.
I've been meaning to talk with you, Dave, but this isn't the right place. How about stopping by after your break?
Well, I can come in now, okay?
Fine, good.
Let's Sounds like a great game, Dave.
It certainly was.
Wish I'd been there. Pull up a chair.
Thanks.
Dave, I wanted to talk to you about your work.
I suppose I have been slacking off. Well, here's where I get it.
Now, wait a minute, Hal. You know I'm holding up more than my end of the job.
Looks like I hit a sore spot. Wonder what's bothering him. You used to. But something's wrong, Dave. What is it?
That last job was a mess. I knew he wouldn't overlook it.
Wrong? Nothing's wrong. Why?
I don't think there's any point in beating around the bush. When you started in this section, Dave, you did a fine job. But the records show that recently you've fallen off quite a bit. Now, it's to your interest as well as mine for me to see if I can help.
What do you mean? There's nothing I can't do.
I'm sure you can do all the work very well. Maybe I haven't made it clear what's expected.
If he can admit he isn't right all the time, I guess I can too.
No, that's not it. I suppose sometimes I slack off a bit.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at, Dave. Why?
Well, you know how it is. Certain jobs are more interesting, some you don't like so much. You sort of ease off.
So that's it.
You think it's okay to ease off because you're not interested in the job?
Well, no, but I didn't think it was all so important. So I guess you're right. Don't worry, Hal. I'll pick up.
Okay, Dave. I just want you to understand that we have to keep the entire job in mind, not just a part of it.
Guess I can't argue with that. How do you think Dave is going to feel about Hal now? Didn't Hal's awareness of the problem and his honesty with Dave provide the kind of direction that Dave needed? And won't Hal's firm yet appropriate action result in better work, greater satisfaction for everyone? Now, in our third case, due to his fear of being unpopular, Phil gave up a good plan to improve the work methods in his department. Would a more realistic attitude have made a difference here?
Jim, I have an idea to simplify things considerably. It should cut our costs as well. Now look at this flow chart. Since it affects your section, I wanted to talk it over with you before going ahead.
What do you know? He's really worked this out. Looks like it might be a good idea, too.
What do you think?
Never can tell how much work these changes might mean. Better play it cagey.
I don't know. A change like this will disrupt an awful lot of, relationships.
He seems sort of afraid of this change.
Well, yes, it'll take a while for everybody to get used to it. But if we can get over that hurdle, how do you think the idea will work?
It might work. But if it doesn't, we'll disrupt our section and get behind in our work.
Well, I don't know. It might work, but it seems risky. What if it doesn't pan out?
He must be worried about something else. But what?
What do you mean, risky?
Well, it's hard to say how the men will feel about it.
Okay. So for a while, I might not be the most popular guy around here. But in the long run, it'll be to everyone's advantage. And eventually, they're bound to see it.
Why would they object to this, Jim?
Well, you know how it is. If they don't understand something, they begin to get worried. And they start listening to all sorts of rumors.
Worried? What about?
Well, how much work it means.
I see. Well, it might look that way at first. But just look here again and see if, in the long run, you don't think this is to the men's advantage. Well, once we all get used to it, I'll bet everyone agrees it's easier than our present setup.
Well, I don't mean to say that it's not an idea, but we're going to have to be careful how we present it.
That's right.
As a matter of fact, what we should do is have this made into a poster, and then call everyone together and explain it to them.
We have now seen two different kinds of supervisors. First, men who were ineffective because of their overwhelming need for acceptance and approval. Now, those were inadequate leaders, lacking in understanding of themselves and their men, failing to communicate their own thoughts and feelings, unable to recognize and cope with the needs of the situation. On the other hand, when our supervisors were not overly concerned with their own needs, they could devote full attention to the requirements of their jobs. They were able to understand the responsibilities of leadership and express themselves without fear of any resentment they might incur, able to provide the understanding, recognition, and security their men needed. Now, would it not be a good idea, therefore, when judging others, to ask ourselves whether we are really being honest and straightforward? When we mistake actions we don't like, are we so influenced by the other person's reaction that we can't do what we know is right? In handling the problems for which we have a responsibility, are we more concerned with ourselves than with the welfare of our men and our company? When a man becomes a supervisor, he must develop as an individual, accurately understand his role, and sharpen his personal qualities to fill it. Most important, he must have insight into his own needs for approval. The more he can do this, the more he will be free to apply his technical abilities. The more interested in his people rather than himself, the more they will think of him, the company, and their jobs. The more self-respect he has, the more confidence his people will have in him. The more attention he can devote to his men's needs, the more opportunities he will give them to improve, and the better work they'll do. If a supervisor can accept the fact that he should not put his desire to be a good guy ahead of his responsibilities to his men and his company, he'll not only be a better supervisor, but he'll get the respect and the admiration of his people as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish the film was as jaunty as that that final music there. It was all right. What's fascinating for me is watching these and trying to figure out how old everybody is. Like, how old is that guy? He looks like he's 60, but maybe he's like only 40. You know, the young guys, how old are they? Are they 25? Or are they, because they look like they're 40. Pretty great. And so some of these roundtable films are horrible. Like, they're just a guy pointing at graphs and talking. And, you know, these management films, they make their way all over the place. Like, they show up in universities, they show up, you know, like an industry type of thing, and it's all about, like, sales, or it's all about management stuff. And I don't like them as much as those, like, short little Alcoa management ones or the Calvin management ones. Those are so great because they're short. They kind of get at the same thing, but I don't know. Anyways, I've got a bunch of roundtable films, and I'm always like, I don't know if I should watch this one. The title's provocative, but I don't know. So it was kind of a crapshoot. But I appreciate you joining us along for that crapshoot. And, oh yeah, like I totally forgot. I have the YouTube copyright hammer that should have hit me immediately after YouTube took down my stream for the that Fat Albert episode, which we don't know what happened, really. I mean, it could have, any number of things could have happened with Monroe and the television thing. I'm sure that it turned out okay, but, you know, limiting screens. It was an issue back in the early 70s about screens. So this translates really well. But thanks for joining us. I very much appreciate your eyeballs and your comments. And we'll be back again tomorrow, Tuesday, and we'll watch more films live. I pulled some Lulus. I should say that we're in the midst of emptying out the archive so that we can do demo work, so we can renovate the archive space. And I am going to do a fundraiser for that. I was originally going to do Adopt a Shelf, but I'm kind of leaning to more general stuff because there's a big expense related to creating what essentially it's going to be a film vault. It's not going to be like a film vault like at Library of Congress, but it's going to be a place that is climate controlled and is water controlled and humidity controlled. It won't be as cold as Library of Congress, which is like, I think it's like 50 degrees. But but it will be consistent temperature. And guess what? None of that is cheap. So I'm going to start throwing pleas toward you. I think it's going to be a GoFundMe unless you think there's a better way to do it. We've done kind of Indiegogo before, Kickstarter before. Those are a lot of work. But, yeah. Say in the comments what you think would be best. I want to make it as painless as possible for you to give me all your money. So, yes. So, more soon as we try to figure out. I'm trying to get a dollar value of how much it's going to cost to renovate the space, and etc. So, thanks so much. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll watch some more stuff. Take care, everybody. Bye.